Has anything terrible ever happened to you?
What do you want me to say?
You wanted this conversation. You wanted to talk about something that matters. Talk.
Hey, what's going on? My name is LeVay Reed, and I'm an artist, and I made this piece titled Out From My Heart. It is a 14 by 17 inch piece made from charcoal and pastels. I believe it's also made from a little bit of Prismacolor pencils too. But yeah, and the piece was made on heavyweight paper. You see, I've illustrated a portrait of a couple, male and female, in a pretty much dark setting. The black man within this piece is wearing a do-rag, wearing a jersey and stuff, and he's just like looking slightly beyond the viewer, not looking exactly at you, but like just kind of out into the distance, not really focused on anything, as if like, this was like an actual portrait, like, a couple's portrait. They would be looking right at the camera, or, looking right at the artist, looking right at you, you know what I mean? But that doesn't happen here. He's looking right beyond the viewer. And with the light-skinned woman that's within this piece, she is looking at him more specifically around his chest, because as you can see, there's like an open wound exposing this man's heart. And if you look closer at the wound, it's filled with nails, just that's been embedded into his heart. Now, as she looks at this wound, she's not distraught, she's not surprised, she's not like, taken back by what she's seeing. She has like a little smirk to her, right? As if she's pleased with what she sees, as if she's proud in a sense. Or perhaps she finds like the wound that he suffered to be entertaining in some sort of way. The woman within this piece is slightly bent over just to have like better view at the man's chest, and she's carrying a purse, blue purse, that is also carrying a small little hammer. If you like look close enough, you can see the hammer there, and that's just to kind of like represent that she may have been the one to plant those nails into this man's heart. Now, as far as skin tone is concerned, within this piece, I made the man have more of like a reddish undertone, and then the woman, she's more of like a yellow undertone, because I feel like, it was just, I don't know why, but I felt like it would kind of go together pretty well, because, whenever I'm doing these skin tones for the characters that I make within this piece, it's usually just like a mix of both. Well, with this, I kind of wanted to be like, one or the other. One that has more yellow undertones and one has more red undertones. That's what I was kind of going for with this. Now, I made this piece because I had a couple different things that I wanted to accomplish here. Number one, from like an artist perspective, I wanted to, I guess in a sense, I'm still trying to establish my style here. And that's to play on with the black and white, with the color, but it's just not being shown much here within this piece. So one thing I was trying to accomplish is trying to implement some of Caravaggio style and put it into my own. As I've been really studying him for a while. Actually, I've been reading this book for a while, so I've been taking some notes, observing his work, and seeing how I can kind of incorporate some of his work into my own. As I've been reading this book, it was saying that as during his days as a student, he would acquire much skill just by copying the artwork of other previous artists, such as like Michelangelo and the other artists of the Renaissance. That was just something that he was taught to do, and then he was able to learn so much more from just doing that. So the way I looked at it is that I can really be doing the same thing. So I took a couple of my favorite pieces from him, and then I try to observe really just his attention to lighting, and then how deep his shadows were. That's the important aspect that I want to incorporate his work into mine, because it's going to help like establish my style just a little bit more, so that people can really see what I'm trying to put out there. I want people to be able to see the world in the way that I do. I'm just having a tough time of actually showing that. But rest assured, it will come in due time. So that's the first thing that I wanted to accomplish with this piece. The second thing is naturally just about self-expression. And I guess you could say the overall meaning behind this piece too. Because with this piece, I put myself in the perspective of the man that is just standing there with his, like, you know, heart basically gashed out. Because when I made this piece, it somewhat felt like that my heart was just pretty much being toyed with. Like, you know, I was kind of going through like a lot of turmoil when it comes to the love department. And it felt like I was really being played with. Like, in general, I like to believe that nobody has any bad intentions. You know, I like to think that, you know, people just often make selfish decisions instead of, like, you know, actively trying to hurt others. That is my, you know, that's my belief. So as I have a lot of time to, like, kind of reflect and think about some of these past relationships I've been in, none of it makes any sense to me. It doesn't. So, like, you know, as I'm trying to wrap my head around these situations, I start thinking to myself, like, I start contemplating if this person really ever cared about me at all, or if this was just some sort of game, some sort of pastime for them. As if, like, if they really even took me serious from the beginning, you know? Because oftentimes it kind of felt like that, you know, my heart was just placed on the table and then they were just playing around with it like it was like some sort of fucking cat. You know how they play with like a ball of yarn or some shit, just slapping it all over the place. That's how it kind of felt like to me. Like, you know, they was just doing shit just to see what happened, just for the fucking plot. You know what I mean? Excuse my language, but I'll touch up more on that here in a second. But this was just something that I really wanted to get out of there. When I really look at this piece, it's not like anything too incredible. I've definitely done better with other pieces. I think it definitely looks nice, especially for just what it is, but it's not something that I'm most proud of, you know. It's just something that I was really trying to put out there. This piece honestly didn't take me too long to do, but, you know, just getting it out there. You know, making myself feel better by emptying my head, emptying of all my thoughts and just putting it onto the page. I would say one thing I learned from making this piece is that I kind of have some trust issues that I need to kind of, you know, work through. And what I mean by the trust issues that I have is that I often feel like now is that I don't really know what to believe. Because my biggest dilemma here is that, you know, I'm often told so many things, so many great things about myself. And I'm often told so many different promises too. Like, you know, I've often been told, like, hey, I really love you. You're the person I want to marry. You're the person I want to be with. You're the person I want to build generational wealth with. You're the person I want to do so many things with. You know, I've often been told this by a couple different women, and then it's just like I immediately get ghosted, or it's like it's a complete 180, and it's hard to wrap my mind around that. Because, you know, I think the most logical conclusion you can come to when you hear something like this and then they just kind of like leave afterwards is that, you know, you've just been love bombed. But I just feel like that is so unfair for me to just come to that conclusion, because, you know, I like being able to believe that, you know, the things that people tell me are true. Just, you know, take it at face value, because who's to say that, you know, what they said wasn't true. But if that's the case, you know, that just makes it a lot more complicated, because you start thinking about, like, hey, if all they said that this was true, then how come this is not being shown through their actions? You know what I mean? It starts fucking with your head. It starts fucking with your head, and, you know, And eventually I got to the point where I was just like, okay, well, maybe the shit that they said just wasn't true at all. But then you start really contemplating and thinking like, okay, if that's if what they said wasn't true, what else were they lying about? So yeah, I think because of that, I've developed some trust issues, because I really don't want to believe shit that anybody tells me anymore. No, I was like, it's really not that deep, but it's just something I've really been thinking about, something I've taken notice about myself. I haven't really been in the dating scene for a while, just kind of, staying to myself, but keeping my options open at the same time. But these are things that I should be aware of before I even get into like some sort of relationship. Another thing I probably learned throughout working in this piece is that, it's never good to harbor any kind of negative emotions towards anybody. And there's no hard feelings. It's all about forgiveness. I think that's something I want to touch on real quick, because I feel like that's a very important aspect that, maybe somebody out there could learn a thing or two from. When somebody hurts you, when somebody breaks your heart, it's very important for you to just forgive them. And it's not really for them, but it's for yourself, so that you can move on. You're doing it for yourself. You're releasing yourself from the shackles of such pain and torment. Even if they don't ask for forgiveness. The biggest takeaway from all this is that, nobody's perfect. We all fuck up at some point. We all make our own mistakes, and to put quite frankly, we've all hurt somebody at some point in our lives. Because even though I was kind of going through it, going through the motions, I couldn't understand why this was happening, and I couldn't actually believe it, even to fathom that these women were actually doing me like this. But I know in my past before, when I really think about it, hey, I've probably done similar shit to other women before. I'm not just saying that you just take it on the chin because this is something that you deserve, because you've also hurt people, so it's an eye for an eye. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying to have a little more grace, to not harbor so much hatred and anger, to think less of yourself but more of the world. That's what I'm saying. Find it within yourself to forgive. Because I know deep down we all want to be forgiven by somebody. Now, the act of forgiveness is to pay off a debt. Forgive is to walk away. And I know a lot of people look at that as hey man, that's some pussy shit. Sure, in today's world that may be the case. I think it's very important to understand the nature of forgiveness and what it actually means to forgive somebody, because you're saying they don't have to pay you a debt anymore. They don't owe you anything because you've let go of that yourself. So what I'm saying is, as long as you feel like you still owe, as long as you feel like that person still owes you, you will never let go. Because in the back of your mind, you say, hey, they have a debt that they have to pay off. And that's still going to linger with you. And I'm saying to you now that it is better to forget this. It is better to move on. It's better to forgive and move on and no longer have that thought linger in your mind. And this piece is a very frightening scene. It's very horrific. It's pretty gory, when you really look at it. It has very dark undertones, and it stirs up negative emotions, especially when you try to put yourself within the piece, you know what I mean? But despite these negative emotions, it's also inspiring in a sense, because the man within this piece, he's not running around in agony. He is in pain, but if you look at his face, he has such a stoic facial expression, and it makes you think about how you should approach these matters. It makes you think about how you should approach life and everything that comes at you. You know what I mean? Because one thing I've always learned is that there's a time and a place to express yourself. Even though you're going through it, even though you're like going through an argument with somebody, there's a time and a place to express your anger and your sadness, and you can do that on your own time. But when you really get straight down to it, when you in the field, it is important to stay calm and think logically about how to maneuver through every situation and not act through emotion. That is somebody that I want to be, and I can't say I'm necessarily there just yet, because I think a lot of people who know me will say that, hey, I barely react at all to a situation like this. I'm always very calm and very understanding, etc., etc. So basically what I just described. But I notice I also have a habit of running away. If I don't like the situation that I'm in, I'll just fucking leave, bro. I'll leave. I really will. I'm not the type of person to really just stay in a predicament like that. I think women are really scary. Like, I have a fear of women after this. I'm not gonna lie. Because I just think that's crazy. I think that's so crazy that you can just say all these things, basically make all these promises, and then just do the complete opposite, like just walk in the opposite direction, like you didn't just say those things. And I think that's scary, man, because I know a lot of men that go through stuff like that. Like, I know a lot of men with similar stories. I saw this post on TikTok, and it was basically asking a question to all the men. It was like, what is something that she said that always kind of stuck with you? And when I went into the comments, it was basically all the same stories. Like, hey, she said I was the only one to make her feel so comfortable and make her feel so much like herself. And then next day she bounced. She left. And then I was reading people's stories about, like, some of the marriages and how it ended up in divorce and stuff in that comment section. And man, it was scary to see, because it's just like, I didn't realize this was such a common theme. I had no idea. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how somebody can just look at you dead in the eye and tell you that they're gonna give you the best years of your life, and you're over here thinking like, hey, this is the one. This is somebody who really cares about me. They say they're gonna give you the best years of your life, but then the next day, literally the next day, not even 24 hours, it's I don't think I'm gonna get married to anybody. Oh, I'm talking to somebody else. I've met somebody. I don't understand that, man. I don't. But I have enough grace to forgive. Because I know I probably made somebody feel that way too. Yeah. I didn't really think about any kind of cultural connotations or significance behind this piece, because this was really more just about myself and just trying to put something out here, just self-expression. I wasn't really thinking about how others were going to look at this piece and kind of take it, but as I said earlier, this is really a common theme, and a lot of men actually experience this. So I don't know, I hope that they can take something away from this piece. Hopefully they're able to look inwards and possibly leave with a new perspective. hopefully. Yeah, man, that's pretty much about it. That's all I have to say. If you want to know more about this piece, you can feel free to check out my website, because I type up a little blog about each and every one of my pieces. So if you want to know more information about that, go ahead and check it out. Leave a comment, let me know what you think about it. Yeah. This piece is available for sale, so if somebody wants to take this home, you definitely can. You can either email me or you can buy it off of my website. Either or is fine. Artwork is pretty expensive, so we could always talk about payment plans and stuff. Break it up into like increments. Yeah, I think that's just gonna be the end of the video. I appreciate y'all for actually watching this, actually hearing what I had to say. So if this is something you actually fuck with, I appreciate it. Just leave a like, comment. Try to put out some more videos soon. So if you're really invested, go ahead and subscribe to them. Yeah, I'll see y'all in the next piece, bro.